Hey folks, how's it going? This is Mr. Ray coming to you with a do now for Course 1 CP for Thursday, May 21st, 2020. And I am so excited to see you guys today for what I hope will be a wonderful hangout. I've got some great problems planned, and hopefully we'll have some great discussion that will really move our understanding forward. As you can see here, I'm really starting to turn up the heat. So what I have here is I've, as usual, kind of fallen from the theme that I've been doing over the past few days. For the first problem here, we're going to convert to standard form. Okay, you may want to take a moment to identify what form it's currently in. Then in the next two problems, what I'm going to want you to do is convert to intercept form. Again, these are going to be ones that are going to be a little bit more challenging. If you were to go to, and again, you can find additional practice at expand.willnot.fail and factor.willnot.fail. These you would find would be medium level problems because they're just a little bit more difficult. But I know you can do these ones, all right, folks? So what we're going to do, take a second, convert the first to standard form, convert the other two to intercept form, all right? And then when you're ready, unpause, and you can see what I got. All right, I'm excited to see what we get. So, starting with the first one, we are in vertex form. So remember, the first thing we are going to do is we do want to go ahead and box out. So we're going to do n minus 8, n minus 8. So it gives us n times n for n squared, minus 8 times n for minus 8n, minus 8 times n for another minus 8n, minus 8 times minus 8 for 64. Since there's essentially a 1 in front of here because there's no number, we have n squared minus 16n plus 64 plus 8. Okay, those combine. 64 plus 8 is 72. Because this is 8 times 8, so this is 9 times 8. Now we are in standard form. Okay, moving down to the next ones, we now need to convert to factored or intercept form. Okay, so these are going to be considered medium because you notice that now a is more than 1. But what we got to do is we just have to have patience and we got to believe in ourselves. So we set up our box, bada bing, bada boom. Remember in the top left, we have 6r squared. In the bottom right, we have 14. So our goals are a couple. One, how do we get 6? So we can get 6 from 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. How we can get 14 is from 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. Okay, not bad. Just going to go ahead and probably move those over a little bit. And that's just because I just want to make sure that we don't get confused, right? I want us to get confuzzled, so to speak, between what goes in the box. And in fact, maybe I can even, perfect. Alrighty then. Now, here's what we know. We know that because we're multiplying to a positive number, the numbers in the corner, right, where I accidentally made this mark up here and down here, either need to both be negative or both be positive. So they'll multiply to a positive. And then I realize, well, they both need to be negative because we need to also add to a negative. If you don't put those pieces together, that is okay. But that is something that you do want to be thinking about. And those patterns will help you as you, one, try to make sure that you know what you're doing and that your answers are right, but also so that you're keeping tabs on everything. So just something to think about, okay? So now I got to play around with this. But as it turns out, I'm going to try 6r. And you know what? If I make a mistake, whatever. Now, I know I'm not going to multiply 14 times 6. That's going to be I don't know what it is, and it doesn't matter. It's way bigger than 20, and I'm never going to be able to get back there. Remember, both of them have to be negative. But what I can do is I can put a negative 14 here and a negative 1 here. Because then this will be negative 14r and this will be negative 6r. And then I get 6r minus 14 times r minus 1. Now, I didn't mention it up here at the beginning, and maybe you saw this, but these three numbers, 6, 20, and 14, all have a factor in common, and that's 2. Now, we really should get in the habit whenever we see that number, like a 2, that's a greatest common factor, of removing or factoring that out. We're not quite ready to work with that yet because we're still working on building up the basics, but that's something that we do need to look forward to in the future. I am going to now, though, identify that if you do not remove a greatest common factor here, it's going to come up in one of the factors in the final answer. As you can see here, 6r and negative 14, the 6 and the 14 both have a 2 in common. So in your final answer, you really need to remove the 2. So 2 times what is 6r? 3r. 2 times what is negative 14? Negative 7. And then the r minus 1, we didn't touch that, so that stays as is. Then if I come through, you can see that the greatest common factor is 1, right? There's no factors in common there, except 1, right? And 1's a factor of everything. All right, last one. This one here is easy in some ways and tough in some ways. So first of all, we know what our setup's going to start with. We're going to have 5n squared and 28. That's how that always breaks down. Now 5n squared, we get lucky because it has to be 5n and n. Remember the n times n for n squared, but we know the only way to make 5 is with 5 and 1. Now the challenge is, how are we going to get 28? And 28 is a perfect number because, and I'll show you in a second, I think I might have mentioned this before, 28, 4 and 7, 14, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 14 is equal to 28, right? 21, 25, 27, 28. So it's a perfect number. But the question is, which one of these combos will go to 72? Now, again, I'm faced with either both numbers being positive or both negative. And I know both numbers are going to be negative because we need to add to a negative. The one thing that the site is not good at is randomness, so we got to work on that. So, all right, so I got negative 72n, no big deal. So now I got to figure out, they're both the same sign. 28 with 5 is probably not good. 28 with 5 is way over 72. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely over 72, right? Because 25 times 5, that's 125. That's way over. So let's forget about that. So 1 and 28 is probably out. And that's all right, right? So we use logic. We think about it. We plug it in. We cross it out. We know we got this part, right? It's only a matter of time. You got to remember, eventually you will have the answer. You just got to believe that you'll have the answer. Second combo, I think we have something. So, all right, I want to put the 14 with the 1. So this needs to be a negative 14 and a negative 2. So let's try that out. So I get a negative 10n and a negative 14n. This adds to 24. Okay, so don't get it right. So what can I do? I could abandon it altogether, but I actually don't know that it's not the other way around. So let's try the other way around. That is to say, let me switch those numbers. And it matters, right? Because now negative 2 is getting multiplied by 1. And now negative 14 is being multiplied by 5. If you didn't see the change, I encourage you to rewind maybe 30, 45 seconds and watch what I did when the numbers were, when the negative 14 was up here and the negative 2 was down in the bottom left, right? How it got me negative 24 instead of the correct answer that I should have of negative 72. So I do 5n minus 2. You can leave this as just n. I would take 1n as well. They're equivalent to each other, so that would be fine. But you really should get in the habit of just writing n. Okay, you can see that there's no numbers that are in common here. If I look at 5 and 2 and 1 and 14, they don't share any numbers in common. So that indicates that I am done. So these are our three answers here. We have, first of all, the conversion, n squared minus 16n plus 72. Here we have converted to standard form. At this point, I would probably accept 6r minus 14 times r minus 1, but we do need to get in the habit of removing things like that. So we should have this out front, and that's something we're going to have to continue to work towards. Okay, factoring out that GCF. And finally, and by the way, factoring out the GCF, if you think about it, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that, actually will make the problem significantly easier. Okay, so finally we get 5n minus 2 times n minus 14. If you were able to get all of these three correct, congratulations. If not, I really encourage you to maybe check out the Hangout today and to continue to push forward and think about where you're doing well and where you need to continue to work. Remember, we're here to help as always, but stay positive, keep a good attitude, and remember, no matter what, you can do it. All right, until next time, have a wonderful day.